after saying goodbye to my friends, I started going around taking photos of the stuff in the Airbnb. You know, the empty chairs, empty tables, empty beds. And it started to set in that my solo travel is actually getting started right now. You know, in this entire continent that I was in, no one knew who I was. I was absolutely alone. You know, as I began my trip back to Berlin, which is where I was going to spend my first week of solo traveling at, you know, I took the same roads, took the same trams, took the same train route back to Berlin, but this time I'm all alone. Never in my life have I really done anything truly alone, you know. I've never been to the movies alone, I've never spent a full day in the mall alone. And for the first thing I'm trying to do alone, I decided to throw myself all the way across the world into Europe for 3 months. But yeah, as I travel Berlin alone, I have a lot of time to sit there in my thoughts and really think, what do I want out of this 3 months? Before the travel began, there's always this idealistic thought that somehow solo traveling is supposed to help you find yourself. It's supposed to be like this soul-searching experience, or like, you know, you discover more about yourself during the travel. But now that I'm actually doing it, I'm wondering how it's supposed to happen, you know. Am I supposed to just like go around, see things, and somehow it's supposed to help me in some way? I don't know. You know, is it supposed to just magically manifest a direction in my life? Except that it kind of did. Just that I didn't realize it at that point in time. And, you know, not until I reflect upon it do I realize that I was just on that journey. At that point in my travels, I definitely had no idea what I was thinking or doing, you know, but I guess that's fine. If you decide to go on this experience to better yourself, I don't think you have to have all the answers at the beginning, right? And while I was traveling, and at that point, I just decided to, you know, put more thought into it, right? So as I traveled Berlin and got more and more comfortable being alone, I just decided to experience things and think about them more deeply on my own. You know, I experienced many beautiful sunny days. Like as I just wandered Berlin, I looked around and I just thought about the history behind every single place and every single item that I see, you know. I remember the sunny day where I just walked around and saw this traditional like architecture that was there. It was absolutely beautiful in the sun, and to think that these things might have been there for years, you know, maybe they were reconstructed, I have no idea. You know what, even if they were reconstructed, right, someone had to put thought and, you know, decision into everything that I see around me. Every detail around me had someone's hours that were put behind it, right? And, you know, it was beautiful, you know, just to experience things and, you know, be more aware of everything, right? You know, when you travel with your friends, it's like you're there to have fun with them. But for me, when I'm traveling alone, I get to really think about everything that's around me and be so aware of everything, right? I went to the Jewish museum that was in Berlin, and you know, it's a place that if you have studied architecture, you've probably seen it or heard of it before. And you know, I decided to pay a visit, right? So of course I got to see one of the most famous works that were there, and it's basically this giant space, and the whole like floor is lined with these metal faces, supposedly of the, you know, the Jews who have passed, and all of them were different sizes and they were stacked up on each other. And you know, when you walk through it, and you're supposed to walk through it, every step that you take, you could hear the metal clang together and the cries of it just echo in the entire space. It made you so hesitant to take every step forward. But you know, I guess that's kind of the point, you know, it's a really experiential space. And you know, maybe if I was not alone, I wouldn't have had the time to sit there and just admire it and just think about it for like 20-30 minutes that I was there, you know. maybe I would have been thinking to move on to see my friends or something. But now that I'm alone, I really got the chance to sit down and think and, you know, collect some thoughts on the space. And then there were just some days where I just decided to do nothing, you know. I just decided to stay in the house, whether it was sunny or gloomy. I just didn't feel like it. I just wanted to stay home and relax, and I could. I could just be whatever I want and do whatever I want with no inhibitions, no expectations. And yeah, I even tried to cook for myself for the very first time in my life in order to try and save some money.
Japanese style garlic fried rice.
But yeah, that was my first week of solo traveling. My first week traveling Berlin alone, and I don't think I really achieved anything. I didn't better myself in any way. I didn't achieve some sort of revelation or anything, you know. But what I did do is I did whatever I wanted, and with much more awareness instead. You know, I just thought about things that I did, and with every exhibition or place that I went to, I just decided to sit there and think about it, you know, think about the space and just let my mind wander. And yeah, that was beautiful. After that first week in Berlin, I knew that my next major destination was Sweden because of my first work away. So I decided to do a stop by and spend 1 week in Copenhagen. And in my week stay there, I decided to stay in my first hostel, which I'm staying in alone. And that was one of the best decisions I made the entire trip. I met so many people of so many different backgrounds in that hostel. And it was just so interesting to get to know each and every one of them, you know. My first 2 days I spent mostly with this local Danish guy and an Italian guy. It was nice of the Danish guy to just bring us around. You know, he showed us to all the nice spots that were around Copenhagen. And he also knew so much history about the place, you know. I have no idea like the history behind each and every one of the spots that I would bring someone to in Singapore. And somehow he just knew so much, and it was so nice to hear all the stories that he was telling me, you know. Now I remember on the second day we had a really funny situation. We had a really messy breakfast lunch type situation because we basically ordered food from this thing called Too Good To Go. And for my friends that are watching this, basically Too Good To Go is something, it's like a food service where you basically get to order food or leftovers from cafes and grocery stores. But the thing is, it's completely random, so you have no idea what you're gonna get. So we decided to buy something, and eventually what we got was 3 full plain baguettes with no stuffing, no filling, no nothing. So we had to sort that out ourselves. Problem is, our hostel has no kitchen, no shared kitchen space. So we had to figure out, once we did buy all the stuff to put in the bread, how to spread it and cut it. So yeah, with no kitchen, we had to improvise.
Now we're gonna go in for the cream cheese like that. And smear it on the bread. He came up with this brilliant idea to wrap the cling film around the key cards we use for the room, and he's absolutely right. And I feel like Mr. Bean. It's like an episode of Mr. Bean where he's like doing his own sandwiches in the park. He actually used his credit card for this. Oh my god, this is beautiful. And then here's your sandwich, Glenn. Oh. Here you go.
Oh, that's heavy.
That's heavy. That's his breakfast / brunch / lunch.
So yeah, after lunch we headed off to the Botanic Gardens, and you know, that day was a little bit more gloomy, so along the way everything was just a little bit more moody, but luckily the Botanic Gardens was indoors, so we got to experience everything regardless of the weather. And yeah, that was really nice as well. Just a really chill day. Honestly, it was such a nice experience to have a local bring you around, show you all the nice spots in the place. But more than that, actually make a friend all the way across the world. So yeah, shout out to Alex if you're watching this. Yeah, thank you for being pretty much my first friend that I made during my solo travels. After those first 2 days, most of the people that I met in the hostel had to leave, and I made new friends. There's this guy that I met who was equally as passionate about buildings and architecture, which was great, right? Because I decided that I wanted to go to the architectural center that day, so we decided to tag along. And yeah, it was nice just talking to someone who's just interested in what you're interested to, right?
Down I go.
Whoa, shit! Oh, oh my god! Alright, okay.
At night, we stumbled upon some really interesting spots, but after that, we just headed back to the hostel and just had a nice meal together, and honestly just chatted and got to know each other. Honestly, meeting all these people from all around Europe and all of different backgrounds, and some of them all speaking different languages I've never heard of in person in real life before, was such an amazing experience for me. You know, it made me feel so privileged as well. It's like I'm 23, traveling for fun and, you know, in the name of finding myself or something like that, right? But yeah, it was a great experience, and it's definitely going down as one of the core memories of my whole trip and probably my life as well. So, why solo travel? Recently I saw this video on TikTok by this guy called Josh Adrift, and I think he worded it pretty well. When you're stuck in a place for too long, you end up being pressured by the expectations of those around you. In Singapore, I feel pressured to go to university. All my friends have gone to university, why shouldn't I? But I wasn't sure if that's what I wanted. I wanted to try my passions, and earlier I talked about how I had no idea how solo travel was gonna help me find myself, or how it was supposed to be a soul-searching experience, or how it could possibly manifest a direction in my life or something. But what I didn't know was this: when you put yourself in a place where no one knows who you are and no one has any expectations of who you are, you give yourself a chance to admit to yourself what you truly want. And I admitted to myself that I wanted to make and create videos.